Now, this is not just a situation that is happening on some. I mean, it's something like it's a daily basis. Now, why are these groups target and what is the challenge for us African people? So we want to thank you all for signing in, for joining us on this conversation. We have time to reflect, we look back at the past, and we're looking back into the future. Today, you just saw us dropped a video from Professor Pielo Lumumba on his visit in Malawi. That video is trending and currently going viral on the social media platforms. Now, as we all heard and knew that Professor Pielo Lumumba already announced that he'll be meeting the Malawian president for some very important discussions. Now, we're all looking forward to see or to hear or to learn what actually was that discussion focused on. But from news dropping, as we already heard that they talked about more about, healthcare, about agriculture, but we'll be bringing you that news when we all have the full edition. So we want to welcome Professor James Small, who is sitting here in studio with us, ready to educate us and to tell us some aspect or some facts in our race and our community. Why is it that the Black man is targeted, and what are their challenges, and what is it that we can look forward as solutions? Welcome, Professor James Small.
Thank you, Sister Dr. Susan Tata. We shouldn't narrow it. When we narrow it down, it looks like something happening to Black people in the United States of America. This same thing is happening on the continent of Africa. From the Congo to South Africa, we saw what went on in Chad. We still don't know whether the president was assassinated. We don't know whether it was a coup. They said he was killed. Hey, we know there's 5,000 French troops in Chad. What sense did that make? There's more French troops in Chad than there's Chadian troops. Mm-hmm. And something happens to your president on a battlefield, and we accept it. The role of the American CIA in Chad. I'm going there first because we sometimes forget there's an African race that's nearly 3 billion or 2+ billion strong, scattered all over the world. Where we sit in Africa, we sit on the greatest wealth on the planet. Every nation is there trying to steal that wealth, and they will kill as many African men and women and children as they have to. More people is killed by the police in Congo every day than is killed by the white policemen in America in a month. But we don't make the connection because we think this has to do with racism. This is not racism. Racism is just a small part of the miniature mind of poor whites who makes up the policing and the military apparatus of the major white powers. Okay. So we need to put the content in the right context. This is a war on African people wherever we are. The reason it looms so bright in America, because it's America with all the media and all of the other things, so you can see a demonstration. How many people yesterday heard, or day before, or a few days ago, heard the president of Malawi make a speech talking about those who were corrupt and those who were arrested for stealing funds for COVID and those who would be, because the Western media won't carry that. Okay? And yet that is pertinent to Africans' growth to hear the president of Malawi. But because it's the United States, the Western media carry anything that happens. In the last year, since 2020, let me tell you what the numbers look like, because we hear George Floyd and we think it starts and stops there. In 2020, 241 Blacks were killed. In 2020, you heard about maybe 5, okay? 241. Of that 241, I think 164 were men and the rest were Black women. In 2021 thus far, we're the 4th month in, 20 of us have already been murdered by the police, okay? 20, not 2, not 3. Day before yesterday, the day that the Chauvin verdict came down in the George Floyd killing, 30 minutes before a young Black woman was killed. And that was gonna, if she had a knife and she was going to injure another person, the police may not have had a choice in that one. This morning, I heard there's another young Black man shot to death by the police. The week before the trial ended, another Black man killed right there in Minnesota. You see, this goes on every day. The American police killed more people than any other country in the world. An average of 3 persons is killed by our police department every single day. Black people, we make up 2 out of every 3 that's killed by the police in America every day. So this is not just racism, this is systemic terrorism by the part of the military law enforcement apparatus in the United States of America. The police forces in America came into being as instruments for tracking down, torturing, killing, and returning Africans who were enslaved. That's where the police department was founded. That was its purpose. And they conduct themselves as though that is still its purpose, to control the African population, killing as many as you can, as often as you can, to keep them in their place. Just as they did when we were on the plantations doing slavery. A lot of this can be taken back to the Berlin Conference, but we don't knit stuff up. We say, oh, you're Cameroonian. Oh, you're Nigerian. Then we get in Nigeria. Oh, you're Igbo. Oh, you're from Benin State. Oh, you're Yoruba. No, we're Africans. We're in Brazil. We're in Trinidad. We're in Jamaica, we're in Cuba, we're in Canada, we're in the United States, and we're in the 54 nations in Africa. If you can see that together, because white people in Africa don't behave any better than they do here. They'll play you a little bit more, but when I walked in so many situations in Africa where white folks are being Europeans and European Americans are trying to be the kindest, coolest people in the world until the African American walk in and they know, we know them. So we know that's a pretense. We know that's hypocrisy. We know you've come for something and you think my brother on the continent don't know you like I know you. So when I walk on the scene, your behavior change because I know your behavior. And so what we've got to understand, there is a race war. There is a culture war. There is a spiritual war being waged by the United States and the other Western powers against Africa and her people anywhere we exist. This is not some personal rift between some Black Americans and white Americans. Because if we were the animals they were, we could kill as many of them as they do of us. But we don't do that. We try to use the government apparatus and the justice legal system and try to get some redress. The sad thing, except for the case of George Floyd, out of the 54 African nations, we never hear one of them speak up on our behalf.
Absolutely.
So we have no sanctuary. We're stuck to fight these people toe to toe because we have no sanctuary. The closest sanctuary we have, and I must give them credit, is the nation of Ghana, who has offered citizenship to our people. And they even have a legislation going before their parliament to offer citizenship to the formerly enslaved children in all of the diaspora. But they're the only one. You've got 60 to 70 million people who have been under terrorist attack for 400 years. And now one of our governments said, wait a minute, America. Those are our people. As though if you come here 100 years ago, you lose your race changed, but if you came 6 months ago, you're still African. These are the questions that need to be raised. Then we'll understand why the killing. You see, why the killing? The competition to the patriarchal white male society especially in places like America, Britain, and Paris, and so forth, is the African man. He's already marginalized his women. And even though he's given them some play, he keeps them in, is his major competition. He already knows, because we are in all aspects of his corporate structure, his scientific structure, the medical structure, the military structure. He knows that when given the opportunity, we soar. So how do you check your competition? The way you check your competition is to take away its opportunities. How do you take away its opportunities? You deny them access to education. When you deny people access to education, what happens? They're unable to provide the food, clothing, shelter for themselves and their family in the normal way. Then what do they do? What do they resort to? They resort to crimes. And what do? Put them in prison. And the cycle just repeats. It is really strange, though, when you look and see over the last, just take 2 years, 90% of the Black men and women killed by police in America was unarmed, and none of them was involved in any criminal act. They were stopped for things like speeding ticket. As you know, that's not a felony of any sort. They were stopped on the streets for some reason. But they don't shoot the criminals. They have a relationship with them. They know them by their first names in the community. The people they're killing are not the people that is from the criminal element in our community. They're killing our everyday working class people. And that puts a terror in the heart of the community. Because the young man who's being funeralized today, Dwight, Mr. Wright, he was just scared. He was a 20-year-old kid. When that policeman tried to put the handcuff and he saw the other one with the gun, he jumped back in his car. He had nothing in his hand. He didn't hit them. He didn't threaten them. He jumped back in his car because he was frightened. Because all the things he sees on television, when they put that handcuff on you, the chances of you making it alive is 50-50, if not worse. So that boy, that child, panicked, jumped back in his car, and she shot him. He didn't hit the police. He didn't try to fight the police. He didn't call them bad names or anything. So there is a culture, an anti-African culture in America. We call that racism, but let's call it what it is. See, if we were talking about the Jews, they would say anti-Semitism. They wouldn't say racism. They would say you're being anti-Jewish. But we call it racism, and then you can kind of dilute that. This is an anti-African cultural response we're seeing from the police towards African people. And when you label it right, finding the answer becomes a lot easier. You say it's racism. What in the world is that, really? People play game with them. Systemic racism. What is systemic racism? From the time we entered this country of North America, there have been an anti-African terrorism played out against our population, men, women, and children, from the time we were put on those slave ships, and is not abated to this day. The police simply represents the most public instrument. But if the politicians thought the police was wrong, why haven't they changed the laws and the rules? They have the power on any given day. Right now, there's the George Floyd police reform bill before Congress. The House of Representatives have already passed it. But the Republican-controlled Senate is refusing to pass it. And since Floyd's death, the federal government of the United States have not passed one piece of legislation to reform the police departments. Now, some local police units have reformed themselves or in the process of doing reform. a few of them, but not the main government. So what does that tell me? That the government then condones the anti-African behavior of its paramilitary instrument we call the police. You know, in this same cycle, 250 women have been killed by the police since 2015 in this country. 250 women. That's not happening nowhere else in the world. Why is it happening here in America? You know? But most of those women were Black women. And we have to understand what it is to put terror into the Black population. Most people would like to think the way we are portrayed in the media as criminals, break dancers, and people who just sing. People of the world, we are more than 60 to 70 million. We aren't all out there rapping and breakdancing and playing basketball. Only a few thousand of us are doing that. The other 60 plus million of us are working class people or middle class people who have high school education, and about 1/3 or more of that have college education. We're working in all the corporate structures of America. We're lawyers, we're doctors, we're business people. Why don't they portray that African American as the daily image on the screen? Because if you portray that person, you can't justify murdering to ass with George Floyd. But it's not just America. This type of anti-African terror behavior exists in Britain, Paris, Germany, Italy, Spain, China, and we need to stop pretending that it don't. Holland, and we need to stop pretending that it don't. It exists in the Arab Muslim world. So to all my African Muslim brother and sisters, yes, you just had Ramadan Mubarak, and I hope you had a wonderful time. But I remember going into Jeddah in 1974 to find out that in 73 and 74, they were killing African Muslims in the streets. So Nigeria in 1975 had to send the Nigerian National Guard there and send the Nigerian Boy Scouts to police the area where the African Muslims were staying. So we need to stop and take the blinders off of our eyes, that there's an anti-African culture that pervades the governmental behavior, especially at the police level structure in all non-African countries, because all of them are engaged in stealing the wealth of Africa, and all of them are engaged in using the brains of Africans in the diaspora, but don't want them to come together to enjoy the wealth of Africa for themselves, or to use those brains to build African institution and industry for themselves. And that does produce at the most local level and at the level of the white individual, hatred and this attitude we call racism. And if you ask one of them to justify, say, well, why do you hate the Africans? Why do you have this racist view? You enslaved the Africans, but you are angry with them. They should be angry with you. You are the enslaver. You colonized me, but you're angry with me. I should be angry with you. It makes no logical sense except to justify the behavior of misusing the talents and the wealth and the resources of Africa to build Europe and European institutions across the world to sustain it and maintain it. That habit of behavior have become a culture, an anti-African culture. And it is that anti-African culture that we are calling racism. But racism is just one level of manifestation of the anti-African culture that pervades all Western and Asian and Middle Eastern capitals, all of them. And Africans need to stop pretending we only have one another. We only have the 54 nations in Africa, the diaspora in Europe, the Caribbean, Latin, and English and French-speaking Africans, and Brazil, and Colombia, and the other Spanish and Portuguese-speaking African nations. That's who we have. We don't have any other friends culturally, or intellectually, or politically, or militaristically, anywhere else in the world. And so that gets manifested in America, that if I see a Black man, I don't have to say, excuse me, sir, your light on your car is broken or your license plate is missing. Do you have your driver's license? I walk up to the car and say that to a white man or a white woman. But when I walk up as a policeman to the car of a Black man, I said, get out, get on the ground, hands in the air. And if you move too slow, you're a dead person. And we see it over and over, week after week, month after month, year after year, and we're still referring to it as racism. It's deeper than that. It is an anti-African culture that has festered and been bred into so-called Western civilization for hundreds of years. And it has been bred into that civilization so that they can rationalize and justify the robbery of Africa and her resources, and the robbery of the talents and the intellect of the African persons, especially in the diaspora, without anyone saying anything. I think it was some man, where is he? I'd like to see, oh, I don't know what I did with it. But it was some British soldier or diplomat in 1863. Yeah, and I'm going to read this. He said, I've traveled across the length. He's talking about Africa, right? I've traveled across the length of the breadth of Africa, and I've not seen one person who's a beggar, who's a thief. Such wealth I have seen in this country, such high moral values, people of such caliber, that I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is her spiritual and cultural heritage. And therefore, I propose that we replace her old and ancient education system, her culture. For if the African thinks that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self-esteem, their native culture, and they will become what we want them, a truly dominated people. Lord Macaulay's address to the British Parliament, 2nd February 1835. Well, they've carried out that policy. They've enforced that policy. The Brits have, the French have, the Italians have, the Spanish have, to this day. And that's what you see manifesting in the shootings of Blacks in America. If you try to see it separate from the rest of Africa, you won't understand what's going on. I think Dr. Francis Welsing says if you fail to understand the true nature of racism and white supremacy, everything else you think you know will only serve to confuse you. And you cannot understand white supremacy and racism unless you understand its relationship to Africa itself and African peoples worldwide. And we're afraid to make the connections because we're afraid of our enemy. They've instilled this fear in us. You know, if I criticize someone from Nigeria, they won't, even our own people don't say, oh, he's criticizing his own people himself. They would say that Black American is criticizing the Nigerian. The Nigerian is the same African I am. I look like any man from Calabar or anywhere down there. My people come from Nigeria, Sierra Leone, from Ghana. So, you know, I have some native people, but those native people that lived on the East Coast of America, they came from Africa before Columbus. I know my people, I know my history, I know my blood, I know my genes. And I didn't show up on the scene last week, people. I've been trying to talk to you, my people, for nearly 60 years without taking a day off from work. Nearly 60 years. Okay. So I'm trying to say something significant. The killings in America that we see has little to do with the Black America and more to do with the Black African in a larger scheme of things. The Africans in America, just the ones that are descendant of the formerly enslaved, is producing an disposable capital of over $1.7 trillion a year. What if we can tie just that into some African industries on the country? We have 100+ Black colleges, separate from all the thousands of white colleges that we attend. But all of the high-tech things they've bought with what they've stolen from the resources of Africa. What if we could use those people we trained to send home to help sort of integrate with our own engineers and scientists and doctors that's already on the ground every year? What if we could do what Israel does in building a nation by utilizing its diaspora and the technology and the wealth that diaspora brings with it? Well, no one wants to see that. So you keep people living in fear and terror and disruption and psychosocial and cultural dislocation from one another. And you can rule over them. We just lost President of Chad. And I was reading up on the history of Chad, the most recent, because I've always been up on Chad. I have a special relationship with Chad. And when the oil was discovered in Chad, and they discovered it a long time ago, but when they decided to explore it and build a pipeline to Cameroon, the World Bank stepped in and said, okay, we'll put up the money to have you do this, but all the revenue that you get from your oil must be placed in Citibank in London. Wait a minute. Why can't the revenue from the oil of Chad be placed in a bank in Chad? And then the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank decide that you're going to we will tell you what the money will be used for. And then we're only going to give you 12% of your oil revenues. That's what's going on in America. You can't separate what is going on with us in America from what is going on in Chad. We saw Magufuli in Tanzania and what he had to do. And we saw us lose him. And we saw in Zimbabwe with our great president and what he had to do. And they even convinced us to put sanction on the one man that was showing us how to come out from under European economic, political, and cultural dominance. Well, in America, the killing of Black man is about maintaining dominance over an African population that makes it about the 5th largest African nation in the world and one of the wealthiest in the world and one of the most technically trained in the world. But if you keep it disrupted, living in terror, living in fear, disunited through these murders and corrupt education system that do not train you to do anything except go in the penitentiary or the prison, then you can control them despite all of that wealth and education that they have. And that's what they've been doing. We spend more time fighting over 1 or 2 people getting killed in the streets almost every week than we fight over building an institution that will keep them from being killed in the street every week. So what do we do? And what we have to do is realize that the killings of Black men in America and the killing of Black women in America is tied to Western dominance of Africa, period. If you make the separation, you've lost the game. If you understand the relationship You're on your way to victory because you know what the problem is, and you now can move towards solving that problem. Terrorism, for the sake of population control, is nothing new. And once you put a young man in prison at 18 or 15 or 14, unless he's got a good, strong family or community, his life is destroyed forever. Do that with 500,000 people a year, and in 10 years, how many millions of the African male youth you've destroyed? And then blame them for their own destruction because now they're on drugs, they're homeless, and they're back and forth into prison. And you say, oh, look, that's who they are. And the world being afraid not to identify with the white supremacist cultural dominance of the world. So yeah, that's them. Those are the Black Americans. Look at their pants, they're sagging. Well, there's 60 to 70 million of us that don't have sagging pants. We have high school degrees and college degrees and businesses and all kinds of other things and law degrees and medical degrees and everything that everybody else in the world have. Do you look at me? I'm a professor, retired. Wife is a medical doctor. A son that's a high school principal. One that's a medical administration at one of the biggest hospitals in the city. Another daughter that's an administrator and educator in Brooklyn. Another that owns her own record company. Another that owns her own catering business. And another that's the chief guidance counselor. Is that the Black family they show you on TV? And I'm not an oddity. I'm less than average. But you miss all of that because they kill us no matter what degree we have, no matter what job you have, no matter how much you know, because we're talking about state terrorists. This is not a racist individual. These killings are tolerated by the state. The state has done nothing to abate it. And until we had the conviction of Chauvin the other day, we've only had maybe 8 to 10 conviction for people who have killed more than 400 people. And you had 8 to 10 convictions. That's an insult to humanity. And what goes on in the United States of America is a violation of the United Nations Charter of Human Rights in multiple ways. They violate our African culture by not allowing us to teach it in our schools and practice it in the way we wish to do it. They violate our lives by having law enforcement take so many of our lives every year and no justice come back to our community. There's multiple other ways that our human rights is being violated. But one of the sad things is not a single African nation have stood before a podium in the United Nations and say, you are committing a crime against humanity against my people. The way Israel would say it, the way India would say it, the way China would say it, wherever their people are. If you want to get to the bottom of why they would kill us and not be afraid of anybody, we have no sanctuary. We have no protection. We have no protectors except ourselves, and we are in their house. We have done well. Let nobody make no bones about it. We've been fighting these people for 400 years, unabated. Unabated. Study our history. There's a thread that runs from the 1600s to present where some of us was resisting and rebelling to our death. But this is true about Africans everywhere. They didn't come and take our continent easily. They never really took our whole continent anyway. They took little pieces on the shore where they could ship things out and control the waterways. They never conquered Africa. They conquered our mind. Mm-hmm. They conquered our minds with their education and their culture and their value system and their religions. Throw those things off and we'll know how to get our Africa back and make out of it the Africa we want to see. And then African Americans would not worry about being shut down in the street because we got 54 mother, father nations would tell the world, you dare not touch mine. You dare not touch them. We have freedom fighters that's been in the American jails for 40 plus years. No one has spoken their name from another country. None. Matula, Mumia, Jamil. They fought for the African freedom movement, not just in America, because I know them and I was with them. We fought for any movement, Mozambique, Angola, South Africa, wherever, Guinea-Bissau. But no one has spoken up for us. That's why people feel we can kill them. They have no father. They have no mother, meaning we have no father country or mother country to speak for us. So we killed them. They don't have enough military force in America to fight us back. And we walk away. And the courts and the politicians is made up of the same European community, backed by the same European corporations. They could change the law like this and the killing will stop like this if the government apparatus wanted it to. But if you do that, then you will allow an African world to grow that have its own sustenance and its own strength and can be an asset to the mother country, father country, the continent of Africa. They don't want that relationship. They've never wanted it. And we haven't figured it out. We still think we can pick sides. We can come and join with the French, or we can join with the Americans, or we can join with the British. We think we can pick sides. Close your eyes and look at the 54 nations in Africa and open your eyes and see if you pick the side that's worthy of picking. You, my dear sister, you come from a country, Cameroon, where the British got a little piece they've cultivated to fight against themselves. Then the French got the piece they've cultivated to fight against themselves. Then you got the Arab influence in the north that got them who call themselves Muslim cultivated to fight against themselves. Then you got the Christians over here, and all of them are debasing anything African. Our tradition is juju, is witchcraft, is that. Everybody got a culture but us. Everybody's got a value but us. Everybody has a worldview except us. That's what the problem is. Not just some white guy who's racist killing some black guy that day because he didn't feel good. It is systemic, but it's systemic anti-African terrorism that permeates all Western states from Australia to New Zealand. The same thing. We have to go as beggars whenever we go to any of their countries. We see this whole thing in America about immigrant. Do you ever see anything about the African immigrant? Do they tell you how they're treating our immigrants? No. They're putting them all in prison downtown New York and the federal correction facilities and taking them back to the plains with a shopping bag or a plastic bag and sending them back home, or treating them like dirt and they're in prison and don't know why they're in there. You see every other nation crossing the border as the immigrants. Do you ever see us? But we are afraid to ask the question, where's the African immigrant? How are you treating the African immigrant? And then our brothers and sisters, many who are here, they're too afraid to speak out. And when the African Americans go in the street to raise the political contradiction to speak out, they're afraid to move with us. And so the enemy know, and I understand.
Right.
I mean, if you're trying to make a living for your family and you're trying to maintain a green card and these things, you shouldn't be in the street. Let me be in the street, but let me know that you support me. All right? Let me go up front.
Yes.
We'll go up front. We'll go in the street. We could do that. But let me know you're there. Let me know you support me. Let me know that if all you can send is $10 to pay my bail, good. But don't make me the villain and make the enemy of our race your comrade and your ally.
Mm.
All of these are the reasons why they kill us with impunity, because we have no sanctuary. Who do we turn to? One nation do we call this? Oh, Father, Mother Nation. This foreign place where I'm only an immigrant is committing crimes against humanity against me. Who do we call? So large, 60 plus million. And that's with them not counting the Spanish-speaking blacks, which would almost double our numbers. They only count the English-speaking blacks. Okay? If they count the Spanish-speaking blacks, we're almost 100 million. You hear me? And nobody's paying attention because they don't understand. That's why people are saying America's going to be brown in another 50 years. Because they're scared to say it's going to be black. Okay? So how do you keep these people who are about to become the majority within a half a century of North America from having power even when they become a majority? They showed us how they did it in South Africa with apartheid. This is nothing but apartheid with a better looking face. Okay? It's just apartheid dressed better. But that's what this is in America. You know, you're a prisoner in a cage, but your cage is bigger. So you're running around and thinking, oh, I'm free. I got space. No, there's a fence there on all four sides. You're still in a cage. You're not free. And when I want to come in the cage and shoot you down because you raised too much fuss, then I will do it. And I will justify it because I have a badge and I have the authority to do it. And so what we have to do is the things that we've talked about on this show so many times, return to ourselves. You know, loving each other is a difficult thing. You know, I say, look, May, it sounds so pretty, it sounds so good, but it is not easy to love your own race people with all of the varieties that we have naturally. And now we have all the varieties of antagonism that we've copied from them. But yet we must learn how to do that.
Correct.
You know, if you look at the successful people, look at the Chinese. Wherever they go, they're Chinese. You look at the Indian, wherever they go, they're Indian. You look at the Jews, wherever they go, they're Jewish. They have a love of people culture, no matter what their ethnicity may be or may have changed to be because they live in another environment under other cultural conditions. So in North America, if you really want to understand police brutality, police murder of members of the African community, the African American community, let me make something clear to people. African American is an ethnic designation. Africa is our racial designation. Don't confuse the two. One may say, I'm Yoruba, but I'm also Nigerian, and I'm also African. And no one has any contradiction with that. I'm an African American, but I'm African. America is my geopolitical space. Africa is my race. And so we combined it. Our race and our geopolitical space. Race first. The rulers of the world understand what we're saying. You know, I didn't give up Africa. I still want my stool and my grandmother, great-grandmother's stool. I still want my great-great-grandfather's skin, wherever it may be. Maybe in Cameroon, you're holding my skin up in the north. And Ghana, you're holding my stool in the south. I'm coming home to get my land back. I'm entitled to that under our ancestors' law, and I'm entitled to that under the protocols of the United Nations as regard any refugee people. We don't have to do that. We just have to love each other, know each other via our culture and our own history and spiritual system, and we could stop the killing in America. If Africa stood up and said we had enough, it would stop, trust me. If the African Union would take a serious position, said we're going to tie your murdering my people to your contracts concerning my raw material. You keep murdering them, we will cut off the flow. What do you think they'll do? They'll treat us like kings. They'll ride us around in palanquin and wave fans over us. Because this is not about killing a few blacks in America. This is about an anti-African culture that pervades Western civilization. You in Germany, you know what I'm talking about. Walk out in the street. I know you feel it. You know, no matter how differently it's done there, I know who they are. And the Africans in Germany suffers from the same kind of racist abuse that we do in America. It's just not as overtly animated as in America, you know. But we know it's there. I've been to the UK. I see how they treat my people. You know, I see how they treat them in Holland. I've been to Italy. I see how we treat it. You know, so let's tell ourselves the truth. This is an anti-African thing we see manifested in America with the killing of Black men, particularly because we challenge the patriarchal, white male-dominated system. And he dare not allow an African to challenge him while he's trying to tell us we're inferior to him. He's got Oxford and he's got Harvard and whatever other foolish little confused institution he's got that he calls colleges and universities. But certainly with the long relationship they've had with us in Africa, and you have not done any better than this towards Africa, you got nothing you could say to me. There's nothing you can say to me. Now, I've talked enough, Sister Susan. Let me tell you something, my beloved teacher and doctor. They will always fight you because you've come to purvey truth to your people. They're not going to let you do it and say, oh, Susan is just so wonderful. She's got the technology together. No. They know who you are. You're an African. You're an African woman. So we just have to keep fighting. They take us down, we put ourselves back up. They take us down, we find another way. They say, you can't do this. We said, okay, we shift and we do it another way. But don't let them sadden your heart or your eyes. Your spirit is African. You're the mother of the world. That's not a cliche. That's a scientific truth. That's a universal fact. You are the mother of the world. That's why they want to kill your son. Because I inherit you, your powers. This thing of killing us is not some little petty thing. The one pulling the trigger may be petty, but the one who's encouraging it and allowing it and giving sanctuary to it, they know what they're doing. You understand me? So I didn't want to take it all over the place like that. But we've got to understand, if we don't tie it together like it really is, we won't be able to ever stop it. You know, we won't be able to ever stop it. And then they'll begin to make you think it's your fault. You only got killed because you did something wrong. You know, so I shot your woman in the back 5 times because she just looked like she might turn around with something in her hands. Oh, she's got her baby in her hands. Then it's too late. That's how foolish it all has been. But we've lived in it. We've had our families in it. We've raised our children in it. We've educated them in it. And we've returned to Africa from it. They'll never stop us. All the terrorism in the world, and that's what this killing amounts to. State terrorism against a particular racial group, the African race. They're not shooting Jewish people down or Indian people down. They said the Arab world have been trying to blow them up for decades. They're not shooting any Arabs down. Why us? We've been here as their comrade. We fight in all of their wars. We've helped them build their nation. Why us? The people who have blown up their buildings and fought wars against them, the Germans and others, they treat them like friends and comrades. But all the fighting with Russia, they're treated like friends and comrades. But we, who have fought in their military, served in their military, built their nation, take care of raising and their children, they murder us in the streets like dogs because they're not murdering the Black American. They're murdering Africa in the streets like dogs. And if you see that, you see what the root of this is all about. But they can't stop us. They could kill this one, that one. In our culture, those spirits go back to the source from which they came, and they'll come back again with a knowledge of what you did to them. So you let them have their fantasy, but we must bring a stop to it because we've got 54 nations we need to build into one. Mm-hmm. And we've got another how many, 10, 15 in the Caribbean, you need to build into one. CARICOM have to be more than just a word. And we got Brazil and Colombia. You know, there's more black people in Colombia than there is in America. But how many people know that or think of them? They're suffering, they're being abused in the same way we are in America. One beautiful sister who was one of the human rights advocates 2 years ago, who was just trying to advocate for jobs for her people in education. They find her side the road with her head cut off her body. She was blacker than you. But did anybody talk about her death? No. Just another African we killed in Colombia, just like we killed them in Brazil, and we killed them in America because they have no sanctuary. They have nobody to speak for them. They have nobody to say, that's my child. And in the world of nation states, in the world of a United Nations body and all the other international bodies where these people could be spoken for, no one speaks for us. So the enemy feels they can do what they do. But we can go in the streets and burn their business down. They say, oh, you're burning on your community. We don't own the business there. We can cause them millions and billions of dollars by burning their places to the ground in retaliation for my blood you spill in the streets. And then you try to convince the world, oh, they're burning up their community. Those buildings are more important than that life you put 6 bullets in or 10 bullets in or 5 bullets in. But because you think the building is more important, you will suffer for that life. But it gets better because in this country, blacks are now in a large number and many of the city governments and state governments. And we're getting in larger numbers in the federal government. And so if you look on television every day, you'll see these black elected officials finally standing up. For years, they were cowards, most of them, and would not stand up for their own people. But you're seeing them finally standing up, thank God. And so George Floyd may have been an angel that came from the ancestors and God to die on that street that day to get the reaction that we've gotten. Mm-hmm. We would not have seen Mr. Shaven go to prison if it was not for a black attorney general taking the case out of the hands of the district attorney. Okay. He would have been walking like all the others have walked. But because we had a black man, an African-American man, an African man that was determined that this would not happen this time, and he came to the court with a team of lawyers, I have never seen that good a case put up by anybody. And it shouldn't have had to have been that. But thank God we had a black man with the guts and the courage to bring other black and white men together to make a political and a legal statement that the world could not refute. So while we fight on those fronts, we need to fight on the international front too. Don't separate these fights. They're the same fight. You know, don't say, oh, small, you're brown, you're not black. Well, black ain't nothing but shades of brown. And brown ain't nothing but shades of black. Our ancestors came up in the midst of South Central Africa and gave birth to all of us. Either we accept that fundamental scientific, anthropological, archaeological truth, political truth, economic truth, or we will continue to be slaves to a handful of backwards little children whose most fundamental ethical principle is greed and terror. It is as simple as that. It's nothing complicated. We're talking about people who are greedy. They want to steal something from somebody and they're willing to kill to do it. And that's what's behind the killing of black men. It ain't just some guy hates you. I grew up with white people. There's some whites who I love dearly and who loved me dearly. There's some white policemen who have saved my life. They didn't have to do it. So I know it's not about the one man. And they knew when they did it, they were going against a system that was going to punish them. for helping another citizen not die that day in LAX when I'm on my knees with guns and the police is coming my way. I'm not alone. There are others with me. But there were white men who stepped in and stopped that. I would have been dead long before you were born. And we would have never met. I remember another time on the street with my babies, we protesting for a hospital in the community. I'm harassing with a white cop trying to get his gun out of his holster. I'm holding the gun, a baby strapped in my back, 2 children pulling my arms, and he's trying to hit me with a nightstick. But another young white cop came and put his stick around his neck, grabbed his gun, and said, "Let that man and his children go," and he let me go. So I can't say this is about white people in that kind of a sense, because that's not what this is about. This is about anti-African culture that is perpetuated by the corporate structures that run the states of the so-called Western civilization or the Western world, in order to, as a minority, maintain power and authority over a majority people whose wealth they want to steal. That's right at the crux of killing the Black Americans in the street, to put terror in your heart, because they know we're not as scared of them. They know we will fight them like we've always done, even if they kill us when we do. But they want you to be afraid. They want you to be too afraid to associate with me. They want you to be too afraid to raise my case, because you might die like me. Well, this group of Africans have told the world we're not afraid to die. And we will keep dying as we try to push our victory forward, if that's what it takes. Malcolm X told us the price of freedom is death. Dessalines in the Haitian Revolution said it is freedom or death. You know? So it's simple as that. Yes, our people, they kill another young man this morning. We don't quite know why. All of the killings aren't the police fault. There are a few of them where you can clearly see they didn't have any choice. I can live with that. But don't tell me you shoot an unarmed 20-year-old kid because he panicked. All right? And you got 4 big trained military people on the scene, and one little frail 20-year-old boy, you're going to shoot him to death? You know? So even with the girl on the street the other day, she had a knife. That's a hard one to call, because she might have killed the other woman. And she got shot. So you can't, that's hard to call. The cop's job is to save a life. He don't know why they're fighting, but he sees a knife up in the air coming down towards the other woman. He had already told them to get on the ground. They didn't. He may have not been left with much choice. I doubt if a phaser, whatever that thing, at that distance would have stopped that knife before the lady in pink would have gotten killed or injured severely. And that's sad. But some of this is on us too. We got to take some responsibility for conflict resolution within our own groups.
Correct.
You know?
Yes.
Unless we're willing to do that, you can't file a complaint. You see? And that's across the board. But what you see happening, the violence against Africans in America, and it happens to a lot of the people from the continent, you know, but nobody says anything. They do not say anything. By the time we even learn about something, is a month, 2 months, 3 months has gone by. But they do the same brutality, whether you come from Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Chad, or wherever. But because you're an immigrant to the country and you have so many liabilities that you have to face, you keep quiet about the terrorism against you, about the racist abuse and the bad treatment on the job. Or somebody hire you and you do the job for a price and they give you half of what they agreed to and send you on your way. Who are you going to go to? That's why we better learn to love each other, because you can come to me. I will go and confront him because I'm a citizen here. I'm not afraid of him. I'm meaning millions of others just like me will speak for you. But you have to own me and I have to own you. I don't blame my enemy for wanting to kill me. I blame my brothers and sisters for not wanting to save my life.
That's true.
So,
That's true.
And I want you to
Prof, I
smile,
mean,
my sister. Smile for me, Sister Tata. Mm.
we we are in the middle of a session. Like I said, when you're here, Prof, it's so difficult that we just have to sit down and listen because we're learning a lot. We're learning a lot, not just that we hear, but I mean it resonates with our daily day-to-day life, and what are the things that we already are going through the drain. And so, like you keep saying, we don't have a choice. We have to love ourselves.
Mhm.
And we always say it on the Pan African Daily TV, the more our challenges, the more the unity. We should be more united. It doesn't matter. I think another price that we're saying that we should pay is the price to fight to stay together.
Yes.
So a fight should not always be fighting to be apart. We
Right.
should fight to even stay together. So like we do everything. I mean, we swallow our pride. We just give up some other luxuries that are separating us. If it is a luxury, and we throw all these things and just come back and say, you know what, we must tolerate. It doesn't matter. Like you say, I don't think the Chinese actually religious because, or the Indians or other race, but probably it's a cultural philosophy as if it is a must. Maybe we start taking an oath.
It is the culture philosophy, and we have a culture. We have to respect it. We have to bring it back. It didn't go anywhere. It's in every village in Africa. It's in every village in the Caribbean. It's in every coastal area of Black America.
Mhm.
But we won't own it. And we're not improving it and raising it up and cultivating it. It's the glue that binds. It's the glue that binds. Mr. Garvey said, race first. Race first. Whether we are the Twa people who's this tall, or the Tutsi who's that tall, or the Ndebele who's over here, or the Zulu who's over here, or the Cameroonian there, and the Igbo. We're the same children of the same mother.
Absolute.
And we have to
Absolute.
work and walk like that in the world.
Mm.
And if we walk
Appreciate.
like that in the world,
Mm.
and take the culture that our ancestors have given, what is a culture? That's what we always get. People think culture is dancing. Oh, your music sounds different, your dance looks different. No. Culture is the story the dance is trying to tell. Culture is the story the music is trying to tell. And for Africans, that's universal, because that is the culture of godliness and human beingness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the story we're telling with our dance and our dress and our different things. We're telling about our human beingness, which comes out of our godliness, based on ethical, moral principles and standards that keeps us in balance and harmony with nature, the universe, and one another. But we've settled for a culture of greed. We've settled for a culture of prejudice. We've settled for a culture of envy, jealousy, hatred, and violence, which we call Western civilization.
Correct.
And we need to dump that and show respect and honor for our mothers and our fathers, who we call our ancestors, and reclaim the work that they left for us to finish. The work of building the culture is not finished, but what they left us is so beautiful. If we use it, we will build a world that will be worthy of the universe or the divine or God or whatever you want to call it, or the Damari or Allah, whatever wants to say, that is mine. Okay? And they know this. So they keep us in check through violence and murder and mayhem and poverty. Because you notice most of the people they kill are the people that come from the communities which is impoverished. And those communities are impoverished because the educational system don't prepare them for the work world they need to go into to make the capital, to provide the food, clothing, shelter, and security for themselves and their family. So they're less in desperation that creates conflicts and competition unnecessarily, that leads to violence, that calls for law enforcement in their space. You know, I hope that made sense. Sometimes I
Makes a lot of sense. Makes too much sense, Prof. Like you say, give me a smile. I'm giving it to you with all my
Oh,
brother.
and I'm receiving your beautiful smiles, Sister Smithson. I am. I am. And I want to tell my brothers and sisters, sometimes I sound so serious, but I can be light too. I'm not always so serious. But this business of our race cohesion, our race survival is so important. And I want everybody to look at Chad, research, study Chad right now. Don't draw conclusions and judgments. You did that with Mugabe, and you didn't help him build Zimbabwe the way he should. You did that with the president of Tanzania. We all in this Pan-African space, we loved him, but I know many others resented him for fighting the imperialists because it's sad when you don't know who your mother is. And if you know her name, Africa, you don't respect her. You see? And when these men and women that come who respect her, we reject them until they're dead. They say, oh, they killed them. Well, where were you at his side to stop the bullet?
Absolute.
Even if it's in the physical bullet, the intellectual bullet, the cultural bullet, the financial bullet. So, yes, this killing of Black American is deliberate because, not because we're Black Americans or African Americans. We're killed because we are Africans. We are symbolic of the thing they want to keep under control through fear and terror. When they shoot me, they frighten you. They know what they're doing. Psychological warfare, economical warfare, political warfare, cultural warfare is waged against us on a daily basis through all the mediums. And I know you have a platform. If they think you're saying anything that is disturbing to the status quo, they cut you off. I see them do it to so many other friends. But that's okay. We are who we are, and we believe what we believe. If I didn't, I wouldn't at this age still be doing what I'm doing. You know, I could sit on home in a nice house and get him a little car and go to the supermarket and go to the theater and forget about y'all. But I'd never do that. I will be at my grave. At my funeral, you will be talking. I will raise the Catholic and I will say, and remember this. Let me tell you one more thing, you see, before I go.
Prof, I mean, I want us, you just be saying a lot of things here. And please, I want to think of this massive crowd that is watching us. Please, if you just give us just a subscribe, if you're new here, or you just give us just a like, you must have helped this conversation to take it to another level without you even having an idea. And now we have close to 184 or 200 watching on our YouTube. Please just click all of you like, and we get 184 like.
Yes,
now,
please.
if you're new here, we're starting this campaign, and this campaign, Professor James Moore, remember you're the one that instigated me. We have to set some goals and achieve them. And so we have this 1 million subscribers campaign that we're launching right now. And we're calling on every African that is watching and listening to us. Yeah, just get any African around you, particularly our young people, women, girls, everyone, to just click and subscribe, because we're about to start. Now, what is the culture, as Professor James Small is trying to tell us? Prof, first of all, I forgot to tell you, I like your smartness. You know that Yankee cap?
Oh,
you need to see how you
the Black Yankee. Yeah.
Sound serious like a professor and this, but you know what? You're the coolest kind of, a brave heart king, soldier, warrior. I mean, you can marry all of us, as a matter of fact.
Oh, it's so hard handling one woman. 50 years. I had to tell her the other day, woman, I am not one of your children. I'm your husband. So, but listen, I am married to every one of you. I am married to every brother, every sister. I am you. You are me.
Exactly. That's what I
And,
mean.
and we are allowed to have different views and perspective. We're trying to solve a problem.
Mm.
And in order to solve it, we've got to come at it from multiple ways. And some of them will be conflicting. Conflicts is not a problem. Having a resolution process for your conflict is essential for the unity of the race.
Mm.
And so the enemy depends on keeping us in conflict. That's why I say study Chad. You know, they're saying, oh, the president, he comes from this major ethnic group. And then the president he overthrew in 1990 came from another ethnic group, but they call us tribal groups. And then they got us fighting based on their description of our ethnic relationships. We all same race people. Take up our clothes and stand us in a line. Nobody will know who's from who ethnic group, except the marks we give ourselves or things like that. But if we covered them up, you would not know who from where. So let's stop playing games with ourselves. Why is there 5,000 French troops in Chad? Tell me why. They don't have that many in France. They're like the American police. They kill any African that threaten the exploitation and dominance of the continent. They're the same American police. We just call them French troops. Why is the British MI6, that's their intelligence apparatus, all over Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Nigeria, disrupting, assassinating? That's the same American police that's killing me. Do you understand? If you don't understand that, don't waste no time worrying about me. We'll take care of ourselves. We've been in this crucible called North America 400 years. Don't it look like we can handle ourselves pretty good? Yes, they killed some of us. And that's painful. And that's sad. But we fight back. We fight back.
You're saying it, Prof, in a kind of a way that, because sometimes when we say we fight back, it's like, you know, when we look at traditionally, there's so many weapons, like you're saying. I mean, like, put out our tongue and say, we will love ourselves no matter what you do, right?
The most powerful weapon we have is one Africa.
Yes.
The love for one Africa and the efforts towards uniting one Africa through an understanding of our universal culture and all of its diversity. That's the most powerful weapon we have. And it's being used. I watched so many different webinars across the continent. The young people are coming at it from that direction. They're demanding new curriculums in the schools. They're wearing their culture. Remember about 6 years ago, I criticized vehemently that we don't use our culture, we don't use our cloth, we think we're white people. I was about 80% right. I was kind of mean, but somebody heard what the hell I said.
Correct.
Because I have seen a reversal, and I could die now and I'd be happy.
Correct.
Because I believe our youth is going to win this battle, and it's not going to take another 60, 70 years of bringing the culture back and using the culture in the way a culture should be used. The culture is your educational system. It teaches you the values, the interests, and principles for which you stand. It helps you create the ethical, moral foundation for which you act. And it teaches you that you love one another by loving yourself. If we're the same self and I love me and you're the same self, then I also love you. And I'm not talking about emotional love. That's a tiny piece of love. I see the God of Africa in you. I'm not afraid to talk about the gods of Africa. Nobody think, oh, we have one God. Well, good for you. I got 101 God. Bring your one God to meet me. Your God haven't killed me. You and your murdering, stealing, raping, pillaging, plundering self have killed me. Bring just your God and me, and philosophically, let's see who's got what. My God don't murder and rob whole continent. My God don't commit genocide against whole peoples. And you call that a God. I'm not afraid to be an African. You're not going to cut my arm off and have me pretend it's still there. No, you cut it off. I'm going to cut yours off. You see, we want our land back. We want our natural resources to be used for the future generations. Over 50% of Africa is under 25. And you're stealing all of the things they need to make a world for themselves. All of us above 25 ought to be willing to die so all of those below 25 can live. How is that about a proposition for our presidents and these contractual arrangements? How ridiculous is it that the Chad pipeline into Cameroon only gave them 12% of the revenue and the World Bank controlled that? How sad it is that Ghana have all of these oil fields in the lagoon going towards Cote d'Ivoire and they're only getting 15%. Who's taking all the rest of the money? How sad is it some European bank and country come and tell us how to value our money? We got all the gold, but our money isn't worth anything. You have no gold, but your money is worth everything. That is silly. And we need to bring a stop to it. That's what this killing and terrorism against me, the African in America, is about. It isn't about you don't like some black guy. Because that same white cop, he probably was in some bar with some black woman the night before. You know? No, I'm being honest. I live here. I know what goes on here. The hypocrisy of it all. So it isn't the individual, though yet the individual's got to take responsibility. It's the culture of anti-African terror that must be meted out against the African male particularly, but as well against the African female. See, before they tried to control the African female without killing her, but she had gotten so close to her family, they had now begun to kill to put fear into her. But it didn't work. If you notice in the last year, the African female have rose up in America like you have never seen.
Oh, yes.
They mess with the wrong thing, messing with that black woman. See, we may get a little skittish. That black woman had enough of this stuff. They had enough. And so we've got to pay attention and see what we see. You know, it's time for the black woman. It is the black woman time, the African woman's time. And that's not a cliche. It's because of who you are. The black man has been on the front row for a long time, but we've been decimated. We've been decimated. And I'm not being disrespectful, brothers. I've been out here all my life. We've been decimated. And many of our sisters have been with us. But the sisters had to play a supportive role to make sure we are able to go out there to be decimated. But now the sister have to take the lead of this thing. Because she has another kind of message. This is her children that's being slaughtered in the street. That woman viewed the death of that child in that street different from how that man viewed the death of that child in that street. And she's going to bring other things to the table. And if you don't believe me, turn your TV on and see who you see speaking with the most forceful voices across America. It's black women. And we're beginning to see it across Africa, this black woman. And our job is to make sure she's got all the support and foundational assistance she needs. And if we do our job as fathers and as husbands and as brothers and as uncles, she'll do her job as the Queen Mother, who's always been the true leader of Africa anyway, not the king. You make the kings, and you can take them from there when you want to.
Ashe.
But that's really the historical truth.
Queens, I'm talking to my queens. I'm just giving out a shout out to them. Did you hear that? Tomorrow I'm dropping really this video. As you see, we're going to be doing, apart from the conversations, we're going to be doing daily videos that we catch on the scene, circulating meetings of people. And we got this Kenyan queen. I know you guys have been seeing it on social media that just blocked the whole of, I don't know which city that was, and sat on the street. And the whole lot of police were surrounding her and she didn't move. She just sat there. I mean, this is exactly what you're saying, that the black woman now is saying, our men, our sons,
But
our
we've got to
husbands.
support you. We've got to tell the rest of the world, touch not my anointed. Touch not my anointed. Do not put your hands on her. Otherwise, we will tear the rest of what's left of your world down. You know. But black men have to do it. Who are we soldiering for except for our women and our children? That's what we've been fighting for from our first breath. That's what we fight for now. And if the women want to step into the lead, I'm your soldier. I will be behind you. If you want me in front, I will be in front with weapon in hand, whether the weapon is words or an actual mechanical weapon. And if men understand that everybody's going to die, at least die for something worth dying for, because there's no way out of this world alive. And if you're clear on that early enough in your life, there's no way out of this world alive. You're not going to live forever. So if you're going to die for anything, die for the freedom of African peoples, die for the protection of the African women and children, die for the unity of the African continent. Maybe if you die with a purpose, you'll come back sooner and know that you were here before. Then you'll have eternity. So when it comes to our women, you are anointed. And we say to the whole world, touch not our anointed.
Ashe. Thanks to all those that have been contributing, and thanks to you, Supreme. You're saying, and you're saying this is one of the best and the greatest conversations that you've been hearing. I want to thank also those that are watching from our other platforms, and I'm giving you the thumbs up because we're having Koboko Sauce is saying, "Woo, we clocked 204 and we have almost 117 or 120 likes. That is beautiful." Now we're talking about the action time. I know we are focused. I know some of us are driving and listening to the Pan-African Daily. It's difficult for you to click and like or subscribe. But after the conversation, when you relax and you're watching this news, not just the news, the education and the empowerment and the strength. And I mean, never have we had this kind of a luxury. I mean, what time should we be talking about here? You know, having Professor James Small at any time and point coming to say, you know what, we are here. You are our anointed. Now, I was coming and expecting that he's going to tell us, oh, you know what, Susan, rally your women and you stand behind because of this. Because we've been thinking, these are all our husbands. These are our father-in-laws. These are our fathers. These are our sons that are being murdered on a daily basis. As a woman, you bleed and bleed and see this happen on daily basis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the African women, the queens, we are not mute. We're just dying in pain. It's just eating us all the time.
But that's why history, Susan, is so important. Because even if you go back to the continent, every time things got critical, and a great victory came is when the African woman rose up. We saw it in the Borneo Kenu Empire. We saw it in the great Zimbabwe Empire with the underbelly people. We saw it in Northern Africa with the I don't want to call them Berbers because they didn't call themselves Berbers, the Gudamas people out of the mountains of Morocco, who they call Moors. So everywhere we've seen the critical thing in a movement transitioning, it has been one of our women who have taken the lead. The mother says, okay, children, get behind me. Let mama show you how this thing gets done. And men should get rid of the European ego, paternalistic bull, macho stupid, and know how to back our women to the death. Okay? I'm not intimidated by any women. If somebody had told me you could live forever, but there'd be no African women, I'd say, kill me right now. Just take it. It's gone. Did you understand? If it's little small, we'll let you live for the next 10,000 years, but you can't have any African women in your world. Then give me the razor because I will kill myself right there and then. Because I don't want to be in a world where African women isn't the dominant element. because that's the only true world there is. And I hope
It
I
is.
understand this. This is not plain to Susan, because I'm not insecure. All right. I have never been insecure. I've never had that kind of issue. But I know the truth.
Anyway, as you can see, all of us here now, we at almost, I'm just talking only about this platform. There's nobody that has any that. Just like you share these stories, I also have these amazing stories, people reaching out. And 2 weeks ago I had a conversation, just chatting. Sometimes people just reach out and you're thinking, I said, oh, my brother from the Caribbean, it's been a long time. We never met, we never saw, we only just meet in this Pan-African Daily TV, different chat groups. And he reached out to me and I was just finding out the day. And I'm like, brother, can you send me your family pictures and your kids? Because he talked about, and he told me, Susan, I'm in prison for 12 years. What? I broke down. I'm like, what? Yes. And he made those pictures and sent them to me. And I was like, wow. But you know what? Doesn't matter where you are sitting there, you're talking to me. And I love you above everything in your family. So if we have to go beyond these barriers, we have to skip these wars, right? So even if they take our sons, our men, our children, and they put them behind the bars, love breaks those barriers. We have to keep above them. We don't have, because someone takes them, cage them, like Prophet James said this morning, and instead of growing closer, we go further away from them, and we begin to also put them in those categories that they've made us to believe they are. Oh, they're criminals. Oh, they're this, they're this. They are your brothers and sisters. Even if they are criminals, they are part of you. My father is a madman. I'm a daughter of a madman. If my husband is a drunkard, I'm a wife of a drunkard. We have to learn just this one principle of love, this love beyond borders. We reach out to those that are really down there, because sometimes they just not know who to talk to. And this morning, a sister called me from Germany on the other side and said, sister, time, but I just want to reach out to you to tell you that we are connected. That is the spirit and the good stories that we're going to be putting out here. There is no barrier between us African people on the continent, in the Colombia, in the diaspora, whether in the prisons or out of the prisons. We are one. We're going to tear down all these barriers with one thing: love for us. Professor James Moore.
Yes, ma'am. Let me tell you this, the best example of that you just spoke about is Malcolm X. When Malcolm X went to prison, it was his sisters and his brothers that surrounded him and would not give him up. They trained him in that prison. They got him to change and transform in the prison. When he came out and joined the Nation of Islam, he was already Malcolm X, because his family would not give him up. They would not put distance between them. They got closer to him in prison. And look at the fruits we got from that love.
Correct.
We got Malcolm X, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, an extraordinary energy force that transformed many of our minds from the love of his brothers and sisters and his aunties and uncles, who would not let prison be a barrier between them, or let the prison swallow him up. Instead, they went into prison to visit him and took him books and taught him and pushed him until they got him to start reading and researching and growing his African mind. You know, and he was able to walk out of that prison and shake up the whole world.
That is the new normal, as we say. That should be the new normal. And I like what saying, Professor James, well, you always come up, a lot of us are coming up. We have to come up with a stone. Remember the stones that you get, and all of us are going to swear and pay allegiance on that stone. Not without any one of us. Not without. And the new normal, and as we have seen in the pandemic, goes differently. Don't do the things you used to do. Don't just make friends because they're out there comfortable, they're luxury. The new normal and the new African spirit is just giving it where it's not given. I mean, we want to see our people break out to reach out to those on the street because that's where the normal is now. Reach out to prisoners. Those are the friends that I talk with all the time now, and they just keep me flying. Women in the prisons, how you doing today? Because the digital world has connected us. There's no barrier, and we share our space. It just doesn't mean that I can go out in the morning and come back. Professor James, you made a very clear analysis, and I love that. It doesn't mean because you're on the continent, you're free. You're just in a big cage. Right? It's either you choose to say, now I want to kill myself, the road through the oceans and on an inflated balloon and you drain down. But you're still in that balloon, in that prison called the space that you think I can drive from one place to the other. No. So no matter what space we find ourselves, there is one rule of law that nobody can break and take away. And they can't even kill us with that. That love among us should be the strongest and the deepest than any. But do it the new normal way.
Yeah.
Don't love just friends that you see. Don't love them because they're working with in a class of status quo. All this thing is illusion that have been planted into our head.
Right.
Give love to really where you know it comes back to the new normal.
Well,
that's the spirit.
When we saw George Floyd being murdered, but we only saw him being murdered because a 15-year-old African girl said, "This is all I can do to help him, is let the world see what they're doing to him." Yeah. And because she had the courage to film that and send it out over the internet, all of the things that has happened since happened. That's an extraordinary. She's, I think, 18 now, or 17 or 18 now. But had she not had the courage to say to herself, "This is what I could do. I could let the world see what they're doing, and let nothing stop me from doing this." And
they bullied her, and they were even stopping her from, but she wouldn't stop. She stood there.
That was a spirit of Africa. And when you hear her talk, you see it's not ego. She's just a little girl who in her heart knew that's wrong. And I can't beat them. I can't stop them, but I can show it to the world so that they will have to take some responsibility. And she did it. That's love.
Yes.
And you know, they've threatened her life and threatened to kill and all kinds of things since this thing. But thank God a lot of our Black people have come out to give her the security she needs and the support she needs. You know. But it's about African love. Even if Susan cussed me out and says, "I don't like your hats, your glasses, oh, you crazy Black American man causing trouble," I will still love her anyway. I have no choice in loving her. True. I have no choice in loving the other African men and women, nearly 2+ billion. I have no choice. And if we act out our love without choice, we can get our freedom back. We can get our freedom back. It's freedom or death. I don't want to live unless I'm free or fighting to be free. That's simple.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Prof. I mean, with you, we're going to crack. We can stay here and that. I just want to open up the line and take some questions and some feedbacks. I know you've been enjoying. There's been a moment of this melancholy. It's all there. Like from the beginning, I mean, Prof, you were hard and like, this is it. It's not about any racism. And we deliberately set out this topic so that we can think differently, right? And this provocative, is it a cause of this? But now we know it. Like the other races, why just only us? And why this particular target? I hope you all have learned and we know. And like we say, we're looking at the challenges, we've all heard them, but then the solution is what we are saying. It's just love, African love for your brother, for your sister. It doesn't matter whether you disagree, whether we disagree and fight and separate. We have to stay as close as in good wishes for one another at any time, any moment. Doesn't matter. We can never be enemies among us. Can't train our children to that. It can never. Above everything, no hate. Yes. Yes. So I'm opening up these lines. If you have a question or a comment, and I can see a lot of you just enjoying it. But Professor, I want to relax and hear what you think. I've been seeing some comments in the chat as well. But of course, you can call in and on +491-578-211-2379 on WhatsApp. And I'm going to take some few calls before we conclude. And like I said again, join our campaign 1-2-1. Campaign 2-1. I'm doing it the German way. Campaign 21 #1 million subscribers.
Excuse me. I was tired.
Yeah. So yes, the line is open. Kofi, you're here and you're moderating the chat. It is so beautiful to see all the comments. Wow, and the hearts and the love and the contributions. Wow. Each time Professor James Small is here, it's always a gift. I already saw people saying, who is coming, Professor James? I'm waiting already. I'm waiting already. Prof, we can just not be so grateful. We love you, love you, love you. All the love that you're giving to us and your family. I can't just say it. If I put only my own in my household and then I multiply all the other household, you are covered and showered by this love. I'm picking up the first call. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Susan.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Manuel from Tanzania.
Oh, welcome, Emmanuel. How is Tanzania doing?
Yes, I was watching the show. The one thing just I want to say that thank you, Professor James Small, for the show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you for teaching us. As a young brothers, we get a lot of information from you.
Well,
Beautiful.
I'm very proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
And
Thank you so much.
I will be in Tanzania by the winter. So maybe through Sister Susan, we'll have a way to be in touch.
Okay. All right. I think he's gone. He was just here to share his thanks. Hello? We're getting this here. But I will put you in touch with him because he already requested that, Prof.
Oh.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Good
Good evening, sister.
Yeah, my name is Maggie. I'm a Kenyan, but currently I'm in Australia.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I just came late, so I like watching the show, but I came a little bit later, but I want to contribute something. So yesterday, I want to say something from yesterday because when you had someone, I think he was from Chad, so he talked about something about 14 countries that has been held by France. So I was asking, I was requesting my brothers and sisters in Africa. It is just my suggestion that it could be good if all Africans. Some youths can go to France embassies and demonstrate, so that like we want Africa to be free.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my suggestion. I think maybe if it will be good, someone can say it's okay. Yeah, it's not okay. Let's do this.
Sister, you're very right. I mean, they've been doing it, and even the community in France does it every time. But like you say, we have to keep doing it all the time. You're very right.
Yeah, we can't just wait and see every time our minerals being taken out of the continent. So we have to show them something that we are against what they are doing in the 14 countries in Africa. So they can't keep them down every day, every year. Africa is dragging behind instead of going forward. We have everything. So, like, yeah, it was my suggestion.
Thank you very much, sister.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
We have
you.
noted.
Thank you.
Yes,
Be pleasant.
you too.
Thank you, my sister. And it is so key that we understand. We can tell them everything you've stolen from us, you keep it. But you will not steal one more piece of gold or cobalt or oil or manganese or coltan, because we've got everything we need to build anything Africa wants. We've got the brain power in our people. We have the capability of building the training institutes and facilities we need to build what we want. And we have the raw materials in our ground. But the young people have to stand up and tell the governments, we want a renegotiation of those contracts. Magufuli show you how it's done in Tanzania. Either you renegotiate the contracts or we cut you off. We close the mines while we negotiate. We cut off the oil while we negotiate. If you want to negotiate in good faith, everything can run. But if you don't want to sit to negotiate, renegotiate these colonial contracts where you had a gun to my head when I signed it, or we had some collaborator or traitor that you trained in your universities and put to run my government through assassinations and other treachery, then we will cut you off. And your trucks will go to your ships from the mines empty. Somebody have to tell the youth, Africa belongs to you, not to the person who gives you a pittance in your hand to work in a mine in Congo night and day, and you didn't get enough to make a loaf of bread. That gold that you just hand to him, that coltan you just hand to him, belongs to you. Put it in a pile and tell him, come bring my appropriate price, and then you can get it. Otherwise, I got enough food in the rainforest to feed myself. I don't need you. I don't need Coca-Cola. I got enough rivers to drink from, which is much better for you than the Coca-Cola. I hope Coke is not one of your sponsors.
Oh, sponsors. Wow. No. No. Even though cola nut is going to be our next drink. And so when we're going to get cola nut, right? And that's what we suspect.
The real cola drink. We go to Ghana and we cut the palm tree and we put the plugs in and we get some kill me quick. And you will be fine. You'll be quite refreshed.
Okay. So we're rounding up in 2 minutes, and yes, it is always a pleasure to have us here, and particularly you, Professor James Small. Your name is placated. Now you're being awaited in Tanzania. And I know a series of people that are asking me to give them your schedule on the continent, and we still have to work on that so that I can put your schedule when you would be in Ghana, and all the others. Others are also giving me their schedule, so you'll be knowing when your leaders and your mentors would be around where you are this summer, depending on the lockdown and the openings. Right. Some will be in Europe, as I already know, Professor Pielo Lumumba, maybe, depending on that period and that season.
I'll send you those schedules that we're finished with the outlines, so I'll send them before the weekend, and you can see what we're doing.
All right, good. Yeah, so we thank you as we're concluding, and we're sending you all our love, and it has been a wonderful pleasure to have you here, Prof. One last word before.
Always honored, Dr. Tata, always honored. Pan-African Daily TV is an extraordinary instrument. It's doing a fantastic job, and I don't want to see on your face again. You hear me? I'm like a father. Yeah. I'm chastising my daughter. Don't let them ever put disturbance or sadness in your eyes or take the smile from your face. Yes, you still have to fight them and deal with them, but let them know, you cannot take the smile from my face or the glow from my eyes. with your devilish behavior. I enjoy being in your presence. I enjoy being in the presence of all your supporters. Please support Pan-African Daily TV. Please make sure you like it. Please do everything you can so that they can grow. And then tell all your friends. Put it on your Facebook page, put it on your Instagram, put it on everything, that people should come and watch this program and learn. Thank you, Sister Susan. I'm honored, as always.
Thank you. Thank you, our king, our husband, our everything. We thank you. I love back to your family, and we see ourselves very soon again on the Pan-African.
Peace and blessings.
Yeah. Thank you. Peace. Good. Yoo-hoo. I mean, we're clocking, family. We are really clocking so high. The same words of Professor James Small to me, no matter what your situation is in your own corner as an African, be it in the prisons, out of the prisons, even in your comfortable zones, in your jobs, on your way to your office, don't let anybody take the love of your own self, because loving me means you love yourself. You can never love me without loving yourself. So what I give exactly as I receive from our elders and our ancestors is just for you to love yourself. Once you love yourself, I feel it automatically, right? If you love yourself, you would never harm me. You would never harm your next. If you love yourself, you would support me. I would support you. If you love yourself, we're going to protect each other. So the love starts with loving you, right? So I'm giving back that same spirit back to you and your loved ones and your community on the continent, wherever you are in the diaspora. You belong to me. I belong to you. We belong to Mother Africa. Now, who is coming up here tomorrow? It's also going to be a very exclusive guest. Rutendo is going to lecture to us exactly like we had Professor James Small today, and he wants us to understand that until the United Nations sanctions on Zimbabwe is lifted, nothing else would matter, because that's where the seed and the diamonds are. Now, what has changed? What was before and what is now? So Rutendo is well prepared. I know a lot of you have been reaching out. Why is he not coming? What is he okay? And yes, he is very okay, and he's gonna be with us tomorrow live on the Pan-African Daily TV, same time. So thank you more and more. I can never stop thanking you for loving us, for sharing, for commenting, for subscribing, and particularly, for all your feedbacks. Are we doing better? Are we going higher? What is it that we can do even much better? But the one thing that I know that we should strive to do is to stay closer as possible. We should fight to love ourselves. Because that's our strength. So thank you. Good night from the Pan-African Daily TV. We see us again, and keep enjoying the videos that will be dropping out on the latest on Professor Pilot Lumumba in Malawi. Videos are dropping out tonight, conversations on what topics they actually touch out there, and more would be coming. So stay safe and healthy. Bye-bye. You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home.